what it means to be in but not of the system is really a sense that people are still here to fight the system. And my concern is that in Massachusetts anyway, the education system for new peer specialists is actually telling folks that they will be in but not of the system. That they're actually being indoctrinated into a culture that's saying, you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to fight against the system to make change. Well, I think that the time to fight against the system is past, and I think that the time to fight with the system is here. And some of you might agree with that, and some maybe not. But what I want to talk about is what that statement actually means systematically when it comes to actually making change, making allies, and making your way. So in 2000, I started working in the mental health system. Now, I went to school for forestry and English. I did not go to school for psychology or psychiatry. I had absolutely no idea that someday I would actually be working in this field. Maybe served by this field, but certainly not serving within this field. And a friend of mine said, I was looking for work. He said, oh, there's this place called ServiceNet. You like talking to people, you should work there. And I was like, I don't know anything about computers though. He said, no, it's a mental health and human services agency. And I think you'd like it, so check it out. You got to take people to the movies and they pay you. Well, that sounds great to me. So I go into the system and there's a taboo about sharing your own lived experience, which I became keenly aware of very quickly when I noticed that it seemed like all the staff were normal and were fine, and heard every single day that when you come to work, you're always smiling, and every day is fine. You people never have a hard day. And I was thinking, yes, I do. And after 3 years working in the system, I realized that really I had to be allowed to talk about this experience. I talk or I walk. And I don't know if any of you have had that impression of that experience, but for me it was very real. And so at staff meeting in 2003, I said to my team, really I did not talk to very many people at all. I'm talking to my team and I said, there's something that I want to talk to you about. I got very quiet. I said, I do know what it's like to struggle with a mental health challenge. I do myself. And I think that at this point, it would actually help me to connect in a more genuine way with the people that I work with. Because they seem to think there's a lot more that's different about us than is similar. And I really feel like I need to be myself to help people. What do you think? And so the room was really split down the middle. Half the people said, and mind you, I'd already been working there for 3 years. They knew I was responsible, reliable, all this good stuff. They said, well, how are people going to believe that you're going to be reliable enough if you have the same illness they have? How are they going to be able to depend on you if you're as sick as they are? I said, okay, I'm hearing this, taking it in. The other half of the room, which is in a way the other camp, said, who do you look up to? People that have been through similar things to you and have gone on to live, a successful, happy, positive life. So the decision breaker really was my supervisor. And she said, well, the next time you're out there and it comes up, I think you can go ahead and share. You can share your lived experience. So I went out of there feeling empowered. I went out there feeling like, now I can make this change. This is great. So days went by and then weeks went by without this sort of natural conversational opportunity to bring it up. I wasn't going to lay it on someone. It had to really be natural. And one day, I'm working with an individual in the residence I worked at, and I'm helping him with his meds for the week, helping to dispense them. And he says, you don't know what stigma's like, you don't know what a diagnosis is like, you don't know what going to doctors week in, week out is like, when they tell you something different is wrong with you every single time. And I said, actually, I sort of do. I sort of do know what that's like. I have a mental health challenge too. And he said, well, what is it? And I said, bipolar disorder. And he looked at me. I'm thinking, this is going to be amazing. He's looking at me. He's like, that's nothing. And he started to list off all the diagnoses that he'd been given, all the ones he'd given himself, and started to talk about his experience. And at that point, I realized it's so totally not about me. Maybe this is an uncomfortable moment for him, and that's why he's going back to his story. But it's not for me to rip it back and make it about me, right? I think just knowing that much about me helped him to feel that much more comfortable knowing me, being with me, talking to me. Well, I walked away from this experience really energized, really like, this is cool. Well, within a couple of weeks, it came back to me that the clinical supervisor for the division had told my supervisor to tell me that I should not be doing that. That is not what mental health professionals do. You do not talk about your own stuff in this field, right? And so my boss said, I'm supposed to tell you that, so I told you that, all right? I'm like, got it. 2 more years goes by, and I'm asked to be a peer specialist. I said, what's that? And they said, well, basically, you've been doing it all along. It's sharing your story in a way that conveys hope, that shows that opportunities and possibilities are out there, that you have the strength and the ability and the power to make your life great. And you've been doing that. So how would you like to do that for 8 out of your 40 hours a week? And I said, great. So I had to get trained. The very first training I ever went to was trauma-informed peer support with Sherry Mead in Charleston, West Virginia in 2005. Yeah, it was a life-changing experience. You know what was one of the most life-changing experiences for me as someone who has a hard time walking into a room full of people I don't know and finding a seat at the table? Suddenly I was back in high school on my worst day. I go in, I sit down, I finally pluck up the courage, I sit down, I turn to the person next to me and I said, hi, I'm Lee, I have bipolar disorder. And he goes, oh, we don't talk like that about ourselves here. We do not, talk about ourselves diagnostically. That's not what we do. I'm like, whoa, apparently I've got a lot to learn. That following the chicken fried steak and the steak fried chicken, the chicken fried ham, there's going to be a whole lot of conversation about what it really means to be a peer specialist in the mental health field. I humbly stepped back and listened. One of the most powerful things that Sherry said was it's not always a symptom of a mental health challenge that you're witnessing. When people are saying it's a symptom, sometimes it's coping. Sometimes these are the long-term results of early childhood experiences that are very difficult. I went back to my program, and the same individual that started to tell me all his diagnoses, I noticed that whenever we were in the home and there was arguing going on, he would get very edgy and ask for a med to help him out. And I would, of course, say, all right. He would take it, he would feel better. What she had said is pay attention to the environment. Is there something going on that might be upsetting? And so the next time that came up, I said, you know what, you want to go sit on the front porch and get some air? He said, sure. It actually had a better effect than anything else I had ever been able to do for him. And I started to realize this isn't about a diagnosis, it's not about medications, it's about the human connection. What I want to talk about today is what I see as a human disconnection. And that is people coming into the mental health field, sharing lived experience, and being told you are to be in but not of the system, that you are different, that you were never supposed to really join, that you have to keep yourself separate or you're being co-opted. They're taking your power back. If you say, I am a staff person here. Well, I am a staff person there, right? Funded by the Department of Mental Health. They're keeping my lights on, paying for my lunch. I must be a part of the system if that's the case. Well, what I realized was that to continue to nurture these human connections, it wasn't just going to be about the people that I was working with, serving, so to speak, like, do you want fries with that? Really, it was about connecting with my colleagues on the professional level. I realized we got to make some real genuine connection here. Because until I do that with them, they're not going to do that with me. They're always going to see me as other. I'm never going to sit at the adults' table. I'm always going to be relegated to the little kids' table, right? So I decided to make this happen. I'm not going to look for enemies here. A lot of people see this as a sort of, finding enemies are your stepping stones to change. And that figuring out who you're going to fight and what you're going to fight against is the way to make positive change. I started to seek out allies. That's what I started to do. In my agency, a very traditional provider, an agency where I was told it's okay and then I was told it's absolutely not okay. And I was given that chance. I said, I'm going to find who's really on my side. And I'm going to be in and of that system. And we're going to do great things together. Fast forward 2 more years, I'm a member of the administrative team now. I'm starting to hire people into the system who have lived experience. Fast forward another 7 years, and a declaration on peer roles is developed by the Western Mass Peer Network, and it says, peers do not give meds, do not handle money, do not write notes, do not talk about people that aren't in the room. Do not, do not, do not, do not, do not. And I'm like, where is the do? Where are my choices and options? Where is my opportunity to do the job with ethics? It's not the job, it's how you do it. And I said, what happens the first time you go and you're working with someone and they want to have their medications dispensed by someone with lived experience and you say, no, peers don't do that. What message does that give? What happens the first time someone says, I'd really like to work on my budgeting. I'm spending all my money on my fund before I spend it on my responsibilities. I'm sorry, I don't handle money. What do you do when somebody says, we want to write this, treatment plan, and we're trying to brainstorm and hear this person's voice and include them in it? I'm sorry, I don't do that, I'm a peer. I'm sorry, I don't do that, I'm a peer. I'm sorry, I don't do that, I'm a peer. I'm other. I'm different. I'm less than. I'm not quite real. I'm more like a junior you. You're more like a senior me. I felt like this in but not of the system was holding me back. I was like, snip, more like a kite that cut its own string. And I started to find not just allies within the mental health system, but allies within the peer community, that I was not alone. I'm not the only one that feels this way. I felt like, I have experienced more stigma in the peer community than in the clinical community. I have faced more pushback from my own peers than from my non-peers. And I'm thinking, what's up with that? Where's the fear? Where's the upset? I realized a big part of that comes from the early experiences that somebody's had with the mental health system. Was it damaging? Was it encouraging? Was it supportive? Did it make you feel better? Or did it just beat you down and beat you down and make you feel worse and worse and worse? Well, I got lucky. I had support, and I had some providers that really cared. My psychiatrist said to me when I sat down with her, right at the beginning, this was in mid-90s, she said, Lee, there's nothing really wrong with you, but I can see that you experience these extreme ups and downs. You're a creative person, but there are these periods of time where you're not really being yourself and creating, and I want to help you with that. She said, I understand your fear about medications. I work with a lot of artists and musicians, and they're afraid of losing their creativity. I totally get that. So I'm not going to approach you as someone who's broken and that there's something wrong with you. I just want to help you get more out of life. She said, you have something that we call pronoia. Pronoia, what's that? She said, it's the sneaking suspicion that the universe is conspiring to help you. Let that sink in for a second. All right. Sounds positive, still very disturbing sometimes, still very distressing, and it kept me up late on occasion. But what I realized was, okay, if there's one good doctor, if there's one good director, if there's one good peer, if there's one ally here, there, and everywhere, maybe I should keep working in that direction. I should look to, rather than break rules, make rules, right? Rewrite policies, create self-disclosure guidelines, create jobs and opportunities for people with lived experience to come in and be of the system, because this is the system today. It's not the system it was even 10 years ago when I almost got canned for sharing my experience, right? Now I'm helping to create policies for the agency. Who's fighting with me now? The only person left in my way, I really think, from making ultimate progress is myself and any shred of self-doubt that might still be lingering. No more. No more. I've got this opportunity. I embrace it. Run with it. Run with it. I was given the opportunity to come here and talk about empowerment and talk about change. And I thought, man, I got this thing on my mind, in but not of, in with, etc., etc. This could ruffle some feathers. This could be difficult. And I'm looking forward at the end of this session together. We're going to have some time to do a little question-answer here. I'm curious to hear what you're thinking and how you're feeling, because what I'm doing is not the only way of doing it. I'm not up here to say that I'm right and every other way is wrong. I'm just really sick and tired of being told that I'm wrong and that anybody else is ultimately right. That doesn't sit well with me. That's limiting. That makes me feel that in the peer community, I'm not really of it, and that they don't really have my back. Well, that was the overriding feeling I had for many, many, many years, but I stuck with it. I really stuck to my core values and felt like there's undercover peers everywhere. I talk to everybody as a peer. Everybody is my peer. Well, at one point, I stopped calling myself the director of peer services and changed it to mutual support services, because I realized that the doorway for getting into the peer world was like this big. Because you had to have a diagnosis, but it's not a diagnosis that you accept, right? The labels are for shirts, but not for me. And I was like, all right, well, there are all these great trauma trainings and this and that, but nobody gets to go to them because they're not peers. But they are human, and all humans have been through stuff, and all humans can provide mutual support. The biggest deal breaker for me in calling people peers at my agency was when we hired about 95 people to be peer receptionists, peer drivers, pretty much like peer snow shovelers. I mean, everybody was peer this, peer that. And like, if using your lived experience isn't the first and foremost part of your job description, it's not really a peer role. You're a peer doing that role. And there are peers doing all kinds of work. But it was limiting, I felt. And it was actually, I had this feeling like, well, that sounds like a tax break for the agency maybe. And so I want to be aware of that and careful. So let's change the language, let's change the energy, and let's change the direction. So now we don't have peer support, we have mutual support. We don't do peer support trainings at our agency. We train everybody in mutual support. The language of togetherness, of genuine human connection, and of coming together to create something greater. And that greatest thing that we might create is opportunity. That gem is opportunity. That's what we're crafting here, is that golden moment where anything is possible. Nothing is possible if your entire job description is a list of no's, a list of limitations, a list of things that you don't do because you're in but not of the system. I'm telling you, I am in and of this world. The system is in and of that world. The world is in and of that universe, and who knows how far that goes. I don't want to limit myself to just one world, right?
Right.
I'm more the director of integrated realities than anything else. I see things on many, many levels. I see people on many, many levels, and I have love on many, many levels. I accept. I'm open, and I want to know more than I know. And so from that first time, I sat down at the table in 2005 at the table and said, hi, my name is Lee. I have bipolar disorder. And all that negative energy come back at me. I was like, all right, I'm Lee. I'm a cat lover. I am a musician. I'm an artist. I'm a poet. People stopped backing away and started moving forward. And ultimately, when I was like, I'm Lee, I'm human, and I'm full of shortcomings, but I'm also full of potentials. What's up? People were able to relate to that. And then I found that my path was cleared. I could make my way in and of the world without limitations. And that was a great day. And so anytime I see a job description or title or a message that says people don't do this or they don't do that, I stop, I take a breath, and I think, why not? Where is the fear coming from? Why are people afraid that if they have that power, which some would also call responsibility, why are they afraid to have it, to use it, to share it? I say you can use these powers for good just as well as you can use them for bad. So let's not lose that opportunity to do good with what we have. Let's be the system. Thank you.
Good job, Linda.